Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Red Cross of Constantine, from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Red Cross of Constantine. A degree founded on the circumstance of the vision of a cross, with the inscription Evtovtko Victi in Greek, or in Latin, in hoc signo vinces, meaning, by this sign, conquer, which appeared in the heavens to the Emperor Constantine. It formed originally a part of the Rosaic Rite and is now practiced in England, Ireland, Scotland and some of the English colonies as a distinct order, the meetings being called conclaves, and the presiding officer of the Grand Imperial Council of the whole order Grand Sovereign. Its existence in England as a Masonic degree has been traced, according to Brother R.W. Little, Freemasons magazine, to the year 1780, when it was given by Brother Charles Shirreff. It was reorganized in 1804 by Walter Rodwell Wright, who supplied its present ritual. The Lectures of the Order contains the following legend. After the memorable battle fought at Saxa Rubra on the 28th of October 312 AD, the Emperor sent for the chiefs of the Christian Legion and, we now quote the words of an old ritual, in presence of his other officers, constituted them into an order of knighthood, and appointed them to wear the form of the cross he had seen in the heavens upon their shields, with the motto, in hoc signo vinces, round it, surrounded with clouds, and peace being soon after made, he became the sovereign patron of the Christian order of the Red Cross. It is also said that this cross, together with a device called the labarum, was ordered to be embroidered upon all the imperial standards. The Christian warriors were selected to compose the bodyguard of Constantine, and the command of these privileged soldiers was confided to Eusebius, Bishop of Nicomedia, who was thus considered the second officer of the order. Let us add this further information to the above by Dr. Mackey. Before the close of the 17th or the beginning of the 18th centuries, there really seems nothing authentic concerning the order. There are traces of organization judged to be of a Constantinian origin, and these appear under various names and find some mention in the chronicles of the times. About 1699, Andrew Angelus Flavius Comnenus, a Macedonian prince, claimed to be Grand Master for some years, and it is further said that he transferred the order to one Francis Farnese, Duke of Parma, and that this was approved by Pope Innocent XII and formally confirmed by him on October 29, 1699. The same year an edict was issued, August 5th, by Leopold I, Emperor of Germany, also ratifying the transfer. The succession devolved in 1735 on Elizabeth Farnese, sole heiress of the family, who married Don Carlos, oldest son of Philippe V of Spain. This prince became King of Naples, and he declared the Order of St. Constantine to be a royal order and attached it to the crown of Naples forever. This account so far is given in the Historic Orders of Knighthood, Joachim and Bridges, Volume 1, page 108. There is another account in Robson's System of Knighthood, page 30, which says that the Order of the Golden Eagle, or St. George in Italy, instituted by Constantine in 312 AD, was afterwards conferred by the imperial house of Comnenus, of which it is said that 34 were successively Grand Masters of the order. Then it fell into disuse, but was revived by Charles V, who declared himself Grand Master and appointed his natural son, Don John of Austria, his deputy. After the Treaty of Paris in 1814, the Duchies of Parma and Placentia were given to the Archduchess of Austria, Maria Louisa, formerly the Empress of France, whereupon this princess in 1816 declared herself Grand Mistress of the Order, founding her claim on the fact that it had belonged to the Duchy of Parma. Brother George W. Warville cites these several references to show how extensively the order was hawked about and how little authority was required for this purpose. But as this occurred after the institution of the Masonic branch, it need not be considered in the list of possible sources. There is a tradition to the effect that before the time when Andrew Comnenus is said to have assigned the Grand Mastership of the Order to Francis Farnese, Duke of Parma, there was living at London an officer of the Venetian embassy known as Abbe Giustiniani, who apparently was a Grand Cross of the Order. Among the ancient privileges of Grand Crosses was the right to admit candidates to the Lesser or Novitiate Red Cross. This prerogative was exercised by the Abbé, and thus it has been surmised the English branch of the order may have come down to us. This account is given by R.W. Little in his sketch of 1868. Another source is mentioned in the case of Major Charles Shirreff, Whitechurch, Salop, England, who, in 1788, seems to have admitted to the order a number of prominent Freemasons. The presumption is that the Major received the degrees himself from some person on the continent. Evidently, an order of chivalry was established in London during the latter part of the 18th century and continued to exist with recurring periods of depression until 1865, when it was revived on a more thoroughly established foundation by some knight companions in London and by them transmitted to us under the name of Knights of the Red Cross of Rome and Constantine. In 1870, the order had been but recently revived, and some question regarding its true history and Grand Mastership were discussed in a book published that year by a Macedonian prince, a naturalized British subject living in London, Demetrius Rhodokanakis. This work, entitled The Imperial Constantinian Order of St. George, a review of modern impostures and a sketch of its true history, denies any pretension in the Masonic Red Cross Order to be derived from the Imperial Constantinian Order of St. George, and also denies the sale of the Grand Mastership to the Duke of Parma, and the author claims to be himself the Grand Master because of his descent from the ancient dynasty of Byzantium. The claims thus made had the effect of evoking an announcement by the officers of the Grand Imperial Council of England, disclaiming any interference in the organization of Prince Rhodokanakis, and on May 29, 1871, issued the following proclamation. To all members of the Masonic Order known as the Order of the Red Cross of Constantine, and to all others whom it may concern. Whereas the Masonic Order, now known as the Order of the Red Cross of Constantine, hereafter concisely called the Red Cross Order, has been recently revived in England and occupies a prominent position as a chivalric branch of the great fraternity of Freemasons. And whereas discussions have arisen whether the Red Cross Order has or has not any alliance with the ancient chivalric order known as the Constantine Order of St. George, and as it is expedient that such discussions shall be terminated by a declaration of the claims of the Red Cross Order. Now therefore I, Thomas Taylor, commonly called Earl of Bective, Lord Kenlis, the Grand Sovereign of the Red Cross Order, do hereby, for myself and on behalf of the Council of the said Order, signify and declare as follows, that the Order of the Red Cross does not claim or propose to have any connection with the ancient public order of knighthood known as the Imperial Constantinian Order of St. George, that the Red Cross Order claims to be a revived branch of the Masonic Brotherhood, which formed part of the system of the Baron Hinder in or about the year 1750, and which has since been working in England under various auspices until the establishment of a Grand Council of the Order in or about the year 1796. That the Order is now conferred is, with certain modifications, the same as that over which the late Duke of Sussex presided from 1813 to 1843. That the Red Cross Order claims to be a chivalric institution of Freemasonry for reception, into which the degree of a Master Mason is a necessary qualification. That the above articles were approved at a meeting of the Council of the Order holden at Freemasons Tavern, London, on Friday, the 19th of May, 1871. However, a change was made in the official title of the Order, which had been in England, as it has been in the United States, the Imperial Ecclesiastical and Military Order of the Red Cross. This was discarded in England, and for it was substituted Military and Masonic. The reference made in the proclamation to the connection of Baron Hinder is still generally accepted, but in the series of degrees connected with this brother's name, the title Red Cross does not appear, though in 1767 a new branch was introduced by a brother Stark, who seems to have lived for a time in England. The branch established by him had 7 degrees, the 6th being called the Provincial Capitular of the Red Cross. See Findell's History of Freemasonry, page 280. Brother Stark was active for many years in continental Freemasonry and died in 1816. The general term Red Cross has been used in various orders, and it is difficult to show a connecting link between the English order of that name and the ceremonies of either Hinder or Stark. The sketch of the history and records published in 1868 shows that the earliest minute book preserved begins at May 4, 1808, and reads like a revival of the order. Meetings were then held at the Freemasons' Tavern in London, and the membership, while restricted in numbers, was yet of men of the highest standing in the ancient craft. On the date above mentioned, the Constitution and laws were read and confirmed, and 7 knight companions were elected members of the High Council. The names of the officers are interesting, and among these elected were a Grand Master, a Grand Chancellor, and a Grand Marshal, who were installed for the next 3 years. The Grand Master then nominated 2 brethren as Grand Heralds. At this meeting we also find that a brother, having been created a Knight Novitiate of the Order 2 years previously, was elected and installed a Sovereign or Knight of the Grand Cross. At the same meeting also provision was made that novitiates should receive a certificate under the hand and seal of the knight who so made them, and that a report should be made of the ceremony to the Grand Chapter through the Grand Registrar or his deputy. On March 13, 1809, a brother Ras elected and installed a Knight of the Grand Cross. This brother, William Henry White, was then Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of England, and Brother Little states that his father became a member of the order in 1788. There were then evidently 2 ranks in the order, the novitiates and the knights, the former being created by the Grand Crosses. Sir Joseph White, a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre, was admitted to the order at a meeting in June 1810, and at a later meeting the presiding officer is styled Grand Commander. It was unanimously agreed on December 15, 1810, that the first Friday in every month should be considered as a day of general Masonic instruction to the order, the meeting to begin at 7 in the evening and to close at 10 precisely. At the following meeting, the title of the order is given as Grand Chapter of the Illustrious Order of the Red Cross. July 13th, 1813, the Grand Master reported that he had conferred the novitiate cross upon the Duke of Sussex, and this distinguished brother was then introduced and admitted to the Grand Cross and made his offering according to the ancient custom, being also elected Grand Master of the Order during his natural life. There is in the possession of the Supreme Council of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite at Washington, District of Columbia, a certificate issued to Mordecai Myers in 1797. This certificate reads as follows: By the glory of the Grand Architect of the universe, and now, companions, behold what glory, and see the people that come from the east, we, the sovereigns, etc., do hereby certify and attest that our true and well-beloved brother Mordecai Myers was by us initiated in the high and honorable degree of Sir Knights of the Red Cross, having given us sufficient proofs of his courage and skill to obtain this instrument as a proof of his fidelity to the order. As such, we recommend him to all Sir Knights on the face of the globe. Given under our hand and seal at New York, the 20th day of February, AL 5797, Asher Hart. Brother George W. Warville says that there are certain features in this certificate suggestive of the Order of the Red Cross of Constantine. Thus, the responsible officer who signs the certificate is called Sovereign, and again SOVN. The degree is called simply the Red Cross, but this was the official title of the order at that time. The addition of the name of Constantine is a very late development, and is not found in the old records of the early part of the 19th century. Brother Edward R. Van Rensselaer wrote a little biography of his father, Killian H. Van Rensselaer, which was printed in the Masonic Review, beginning at page 124, March 1881, and in writing of the period from 1824 up to the time of the Morgan affair, he says this: Brother Yates and Allen also obtained powers to establish and organize the Knights of Constantine and several other orders, which they did in Amber, Skankatelks, and several other places in New York. Brother Yates is, of course, the well-known Giles Fonda Yates, who was active in the early progress of the Scottish Rite. Brother James M. Allen was the brother who in 1823 instructed Van Rensselaer and other brethren at Amber in the Scottish Rite degrees. Just how Brother Yates and Allen were instructed in the ritual of the Knights of Constantine is not quite clear to us, though we think it fair to assume they may have received this instruction from Brother Holbrook of the southern jurisdiction. However, there's nothing certain about this presumption, and we only mention it to show the fact of the early popularity of the Knights of Constantine in northern New York State. Brother George W. Warville, to whom we sent this information, comments on the above. Proceedings, 1924, Grand Imperial Council. That period was prolific in the exploitation of degrees, orders and rights. For the most part, however, this work was performed by the so-called lecturers who, with little or no authority, peddled degrees and sold dignities to the credulous and ambitious. About this time also the Order of the Red Cross was much in public notice, from the fact of its recognition as one of the chivalric orders of Freemasonry by the United Grand Lodge of England. But there is no authentic evidence that the Grand Imperial Council of England ever authorized any person in this country to confer the same. It is an established fact, however, that during the first half of the 19th century there was an order called Knights of Constantine, which for a time was recognized and conferred in some of the eastern cities and particularly in the cities of New York State. But how, or from what source, the authority for its promulgation was derived, no one seems able to say. From a historical sketch by Brother Charles A. Delaney of New York, printed in the Proceedings, Sovereign Grand Council, 1893, we note pages 66 to 68, that Brother Alfred Cray of Pennsylvania was appointed a Divisional Inspector General for his state by Colonel W.J.B. MacLeod Moore, Chief Inspector General of Canada. This commission, January 1st, 1871, was extended to all the states of the Union. Intendant generals were appointed by Brother Cree, February 3rd, 1872, Calvin the Stowell, Pennsylvania, J.J. French, Illinois, Albert J. Goodhall, New York, D. Burnham Tracy, Michigan, and Nathaniel G. Tucker, Massachusetts. According to Brother Stowell, a convention of the several Grand Councils met June 1st, 1875, New York City, to organize a sovereign Grand Council of the United States of America. But this action was not then acceptable to the parent body until 1879, when a treaty was arranged. 47 conclaves are recorded as being chartered in the United States by English authority 1870 through 1875. The Grand Council of Pennsylvania was organized June 14, 1872, Illinois, August 30, 1872, New York, February 5, 1873, Massachusetts and Rhode Island, December 22, 1873, Michigan, April 10, 1874, Kentucky, March 17, 1875, Indiana, April 21, 1875, Vermont, May 1, 1875, Maine, May 5, 1875, and New Jersey, May 29, 1875. A Grand Council of the Dominion of Canada was organized August 10, 1875. A Grand Imperial Council of the State of Illinois was organized at Chicago on August 30th, 1872 by 5 conclaves, chartered by the Grand Imperial Council of England, and a Grand Imperial Council of the Western Masonic Jurisdiction of the United States was organized at Jacksonville, Illinois, October 13th, 1899, by all of the conclaves in the obedience of the Grand Council of Illinois. All of the conclaves in the obedience of the Grand Council of the Western Masonic Jurisdiction met and organized at Duluth, Minnesota on August 14, 1907, a Grand Imperial Council for the United States of America. Contributions to the Fund of Information on this subject appear in several instructive items in the several proceedings, Grand Imperial Council, and in other pamphlets by Grand Recorder George W. Warville, Chicago, essays by Grand Recorder A. Arbuthnot Murray, Edinburgh, Scotland, a reprint with additional notes by Brother A.V. Lane, Dallas, Texas, 1917, of the sketch of the early history by Brother Robert Wentworth Little that was published serially, 1866 to 1868, Freemasons Magazine and Masonic Mirror, London, and in the proceedings, Sovereign Grand Council, 1880, 1891, 1892, 1893, and Dr. Mackey's Revised History of Freemasonry. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.